As we're covering the methods, the set state, as well as working in general with some kind of click events, why don't we also cover the prop drilling as well as passing methods to the children? I'm calling this prop drilling, meaning I didn't name this prop drilling, but we can do it with the props as well as with the methods. We are going to look at the example as we're passing down the method from the parent all the way to a child. However, understand that you can also do this obviously with the props. That is one of the names that's being used where this is being called prop drilling. And what do I mean by this? Well, first of all, let me create another component. And what I would like to do actually in this case, delete everything that we have here with the buttons. We don't need it anymore. And this is just going to be on our way a little bit. And I think it's just going to confuse us more than anything. So let me get rid of the counts and names and all that. And what I would like to do instead is to create another button that's going to be child for my book. And then I would like to pass the data from the book list that we know we have. And you know what, by the way, I can close this guy as well as this one and then pass it some kind of method where I can click all the way from the book list to the book as well as to the button that I'm going to be passing here right now. So why don't we start like this? Why don't we say, okay, there's going to be a new file. I'm just going to call this button.js. It doesn't really matter what you call it. And then here we're going to say that I would like to have the functional component. So I know that I can type a RFC. Since in this case, we're just going to be getting props. We don't really care about it anyway. Then in this case, we're not going to be getting the div. Instead, we're going to be returning the button. And let's just write delete me. At this point, we're not going to set up the functionality for deletion, but we're just going to say delete me. And then we're going to say that for this button, I would like to add a little bit of styling. And you know what? Maybe before the styles, just the proper attributes for the HTML. So this would be button. And I think I can close the sidebar, by the way. And here I'm going to say I would want some kind of style. And let's do a little bit of inline styling. So let's say we could have maybe background. And you know what? Let me get it back. Background is going to be red. Color is going to be white. And we can also do maybe font size. And you know what? I'm already making the errors because remember this was JavaScript. So I was telling you that you shouldn't do it, but obviously first thing that I do, I keep writing as an error. So we need to write white here because that would be my color. And then let's shoot for, I don't know, font size, like 2 REMs. So let's say 2 REMs. So this is going to be my button. Obviously, at the moment, nothing is showing. However, since we're exporting as a default, I can head over back to the book and I can say here up on the top that I'm going to be importing the button. So I can just call this button from, and then I'm going to be looking for the same folder, of course. And this is where I'm going to have my buttons. Okay, so I named my file buttons. Fair enough. I was shooting for button, but I mean, this is probably as good as it's going to get. And then somewhere here, let's say after the heading 6, why don't we actually render the button? Why don't we have a look of what do we have here? So let me save this. And sure enough, I have a big, nice button that at the moment doesn't do anything. And here's my plan. And for this, I will going to go back again to the React tools. So I'm going to make this bigger. Then we're going to look for inspection. Then we're going to be looking for the React tools, which are hiding in this case. And then I'm going to show you where we're going to be passing the information. So this is my plan. We have the book list. And then within the book list, we have the section. Then within the section, we have each and every book. Now, each and every book right now is rendering the button that we have. So my idea is pass it from the book list to the book, as well as later on, we're going to pass it to the button. So that's my plan. And as I'm doing this, I'm going to show you what would be the difference as we're actually accessing the method that is not in the same component. However, this is going to be not only in the child component, but it would obviously work the same in a child component. But this could be a grandchild component technically. But what you're seeing is we have one parent that I'm passing to the child, and then I'm going to pass down to this button. So this is why it is called prop drilling, because you technically are drilling the props. And by the way, again, we're skipping a little bit ahead, but in general, this is why you start using something like Redux or something like Context API. Well, maybe not this particular example, don't get me wrong, but this whole idea where you're passing data down sometimes gets really annoying because what's happening is that, let's say you have component that is 5 components deep, that really gets tiresome really fast. So that's the reason why you come up with those solutions, or not you. That's the reason why they came up with those solutions where you can get data straight from some kind of parent all the way down here without passing the book. But what we're going to look at is the normal case where if you want, let's say, this button to have some kind of method or some kind of prop that is sitting here within the book list, we do need to pass it through the book. And that's going to be kind of important, and you'll see how this is going to be happening. Again, I skipped a little bit ahead. Of course, the moment we're going to start talking about the context API, I'm going to revisit this a little bit and all that. But just to kind of give you a heads up that as you're passing something down, some kind of information, you will going to have to go through the book because this is technically, or not technically, this is a parent element for the button. Anyway, after 5 minutes of me talking and talking, why don't we head over back to the book list? And now let's create our method. And we know, okay, so this would be my book list. I mean, we're already aware of the state, so I think I can delete that. And why don't we say this? Why don't we say handle delete? This is just going to be my method. Now I'm going to set it up as an arrow function. And for now, let's do very simply. Let's just write that this would be the curly braces, but obviously you can write it however you like. You don't need to use the curly braces. But here I'm going to say console log, and we're going to say I am, or you know what? Let's use the actual template literals, and we're going to say I am from technically parent container, but you understand that this would be a grandparent. Parent component. And we already know that if this is in the same component, it's very easy. The only thing I would need to do if I would want to click it here, I would need to set up whatever element I would want, and I would just attach on click, and we're going to pass it by the reference. Remember, we did this already in the book. It's not a big deal. We have covered this. However, now it's a little bit more interesting. I would like to pass this handle delete to first of all book. So how do we do this? Because even though we had some kind of buttons here, there's no way for me to access that method right now. I cannot just call somewhere here, let's say on heading 6, then I'm going to say on click, and then on click, I'm going to be saying handle delete because that method doesn't exist. I cannot say this dot handle delete. We cannot do that. We can do it right now in a book list because this is in the same component, and obviously I moved it, but we cannot do it in the child. So how do we do that? Well, we pass it with the props. And this is what I'm saying, that this would work exactly the same if we would have some kind of extra prop here. So let's say here, again, name is going to be John. If I would want to pass this down, again, I can just access this and pass it here as a prop. Again, we have already covered this since we already worked with the books. So the same is going to work with this handle method. What I can do here is I can say handle. The name is going to be delete. Again, we can name our prop however we would like, but I'm just going to name it exactly the same. And here I'm going to be looking for this dot, and then I'm looking for the handle delete. So first of all, I'm passing this down. Now, what do you think is going to happen in the book if I'm going to head over here and if I'm going to console log the props? Do you think I'm going to have that or no? Well, since I'm already suggesting, you probably guessed it, that we can probably access this. So why don't we render this? I'm going to do the inspect. And what do you see in a console? We have 6 objects. Okay, so far so good. And then what is in the object? Well, I have the info that we are rendering right now, but I also have the method. So we successfully passed it down to the child. Now, in this case, we can start using the method that was actually created here in the parent container. Okay, so we can do it here. We can definitely do it here, but why don't we do something interesting where we pass it down to the button? Now, how are we going to pass it down to the button? Well, the same way. We can just say handle, and that was the name what? Handle delete. So this is going to be the prop for the button. And we're going to do the same thing. However, in this case, we don't need to use this because this one we're passing down as a prop. So I can just say here handle delete is going to be equal to handle delete. The same, and I would like to just show you quickly. Let's say we're going to have another button here. And then for the button, I would have the on click, and I would want to access that handle delete. Again, we're not going to be passing this dot. That is kind of important because this one we're getting as a props. This is not going to be from the actual class instance that we are working with. So this is going to be from the parent. That's kind of important. So here we're going to say handle delete, not this dot handle delete, just as a side note, because you're obviously going to see it with the button anyway. But at the moment, let's deal with that. And then I have handle delete, and of course the React is complaining because I console logged it, but I didn't set it up. So how do we do that? Well, we can use again the structuring. So I'm going to say handle delete, and in this case, I'm going to be looking for this dot props. And in this case, we're not looking in the info because both of them are sitting side by side. So we have one that is a method, and then we have the actual info. So let me save it. Now everything should be fine. And now we have the delete me that has been passed down. I already technically show you how we can affect it anyway. But what's happening here is, again, we can do all kinds of destructuring. If you want to access right away handle delete, we can just say not the handle. We can use handle delete. So now we're going to be destructuring, and we can right away access it somewhere here. So let's say maybe, I don't know, after our style, we can do again on click, and then let's call the function. And again, would be the same thing. We're not using this. And by the way, we wouldn't use this anyway, since this is obviously a function, but as a side note anyway. So handle delete, let me save it. And now let's see what's going to happen in console. And for some reason, I all the time want to do that. So I don't know what's happening, but let's click it. And as you can see, I am from parent component. And congratulations, we have successfully passed down the method all the way to the book list, to the book, as well as to the button. So now we know how we can create actually methods and pass them down to a children component.